no secret that in video games, just like in real life, first impressions are extremely important. The beginning of a game is vital in showing a player just what to expect and how things work. And how can games do this in the way that no other media can? Tutorials. There's a whole heap of different ways in which developers handle their tutorials. Whether it's a dedicated stage, working tips into in-game dialogue, or just crossing their fingers and hoping the player can figure it out for themselves. Here, I count on what I think are the 10 best tutorial/first stages in games. Now, there are only 2 rules here. First, obviously, these only include stages from games that I've personally played. Second, these have to be tutorial stages, not dedicated modes. So don't expect any training or tutorial stages from fighting games or games like Star Fox. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get the show on the road.
Yo, help me out here. Where's this death metal dude? Bad answer.
It's game time.
I'm gonna be honest, I can't stand strategy games. They bore the f***ing snot out of me. However, there are 2 exceptions to this rule for me. Brutal Legend and the Disgaea series. And at number 10 is the tutorial stage from Disgaea Hour of Darkness. Or Afternoon of Darkness on PSP. Now, in all honesty, this stage is pretty by the book when it comes to tutorials, but the thing that pushes it onto the list is that this stage is funny. The humor is the main reason why I like the Disgaea series so much, and that humor is on full display here. The back and forth between Laharl and Etna is really amusing, and Etna's constant abuse of the Prinny Squad never gets old. As far as the actual tutorial goes, I know I called it by the books earlier, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The stage does a good job showing the basic mechanics of the game. The detailed explanation of geosymbols definitely is a plus too. The only real problem I have with it is that I wish they would have gone into some more detail about stacking enemies, as opposed to just a vague allusion from Etna. But this stage's firm explanation of the basics, as well as the amusing dialogue, give it just enough to snatch the number 10 spot.
It's game time.
Number 9 is actually a tie between 2 stages from the same game. Megiddo and Above Coruscant in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I lump these 2 stages together because while they are 2 separate stages, they provide tutorials in 2 different game mechanics, and they both do it well. I know this game does have a dedicated tutorial stage, but honestly, I feel that stage is just really too linear for a class-based game like this. So first is Megiddo. While I feel they could have used maybe a little higher profile event to start off the campaign, I still like this stage. One of the improvements that this game made over the first was the improved variety of objectives in each stage, and this stage gives the player a taste of this. In addition to the standard capture point objective, you're also charged with point defense, destruction of key targets, fetch quests, as well as vehicles and turrets to command, and of course the chance to play as a Jedi character. This stage isn't exactly difficult, thankfully, but it does its job well. The same can be said for Above Coruscant too. This is where space combat was introduced into the Battlefront series, so it's good to see the initial stage giving an exciting taste of what to expect. This stage tasks you with dogfighting, disabling capital ships, and eventually even boarding it and destroying it from the inside. Awesome! Yeah, it's a little disappointing that you only get to use standard starfighters here, but hey, that's really all you need. At the end of the day, I'm just glad that these 2 stages are fun. Way better than the Naboo mission from the first game. Damn, that level was boring. Just goes to show you, Gungans ruin everything.
It's game time.
Done.
NA, the first stage from Super Mario is gonna be on here. Easily one of the most iconic stages in video gaming, World 1 Stage 1 served as the doorway to a new age of video games when it was first released, and even today it remains the pinnacle of gaming nostalgia. But in all seriousness, what can I say about this stage that hasn't already? The stage is perfectly sized with enough open space to let the player familiarize themselves with the controls, while still having an excellent amount of baddies to keep things from getting boring. There are also secret passages, hidden items, power-ups. This level rocks! Perfect or not, World 1 Stage 1 is still a great first stage. Thanks again, Mario.
It's game time.
If Super Mario Bros. First stage is iconic, then the Green Hill Zone in the Sonic the Hedgehog series is straight up classic. Yeah, that's right, I did just put Sonic over Mario. What are you gonna do about it? Besides, I honestly just find the Green Hills Zone just a more fun stage. The stage gives the player a taste of literally everything to expect with Sonic. Straightaways, loops, shoots, springs, breakthrough paths, lots of baddies, and most importantly, a boss. Though a pretty easy one. It's also one of the most recurring stages. To name just a few instances, the Green Hill Zone has appeared in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, the first Sonic Advance, it was a stage in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and most recently it saw a really sweet revamp in Sonic Generations. And of course, we can't forget that music. Just classic.
It's game time.
It's called fashionably late fuckface.
Oh yeah, the battle against Skelter Helter in No More Heroes 2 is awesome. In all honesty, I was never really a fan of the first game's tutorial stage. It felt front-loaded, and it always made me feel like I'd missed something no matter how long I kept with it. Thankfully though, this time around, the training stage is much more streamlined and exciting. While the on-screen prompts do pause the game each time they pop up, it doesn't prove to be a problem since, thankfully, the action itself isn't reset after each one. The battle itself is actually really fun too. While a lot of first bosses have a tendency to be either pathetically easy or not let you fight a full battle, Skelter Helter is in fact a full-on boss with 3 stages, and a good one at that. In fact, I'd actually go so far as to say that Skelter Helter is actually one of the best first bosses I've ever faced. But this list is about tutorials, not bosses, so we'll save that for another time. As a tutorial stage, the fight teaches you everything you need to know and gives you a good amount of time to practice. Attacking, blocking, dodging, clashing, the battle gives you ample opportunity to get used to all of these actions, and by the end of the fight, you feel like you've got a firm grasp of the basics. Speaking of end of the fight, this stage gets bonus points for having one of the sweetest finishers and strangest cutscenes ever afterwards.
Now it's your turn to be burdened with another's death. It has destroyed me, and it will destroy you too. This is the ultimate vengeance!
Okay.
It's game time.
When I say that this next stage comes off the Super Nintendo, you can probably already take a pretty safe guess at what it is. Of course Jungle Hijinks from the original Donkey Kong Country was gonna be on here. This stage is just so much fun, it's literally my favorite level in the game. It literally has everything. Barrels to chuck and roll on, scuffs on the ground you have to fall on to find hidden items, animals to ride, secret caves, a variety of enemies, and of course one of the greatest music tracks on the whole Super Nintendo. I love this level.
It's game time.
Call of Duty really isn't my thing. Now before you start flaming me, I can fully understand why so many people enjoy this series. The games themselves are very well designed, for the most part, and they do succeed in doing what they were designed to do, i.e. giving the player the most realistic war experience possible. So why am I bringing this up? Well, that should be obvious. Number 4 on this list is, in fact, from a Call of Duty game. Specifically, Modern Warfare 2. Yes, even though I don't particularly like Call of Duty, I can still recognize that this is an extremely well-designed tutorial stage. The stage starts with you giving a demonstration to a platoon of new cadets, which also, cleverly, gives you a rundown in the basics of firing and handling explosives. After that, you're called down to the trenches to take part in the real training stage, the obstacle course, which even someone as jaded to the series as me will admit is actually really fun. The obstacle course tasks you with clearing the area of targets while avoiding civilians and making it to the finish as fast as you can. Do not take this stage lightly, it is tougher than it sounds. Thankfully though, the game allows you to run through the course as many times as you want to improve your times and scores, which is especially handy on higher difficulties. Another little touch I personally liked is that you are given a surprisingly decent array of weapons to try out before you start the course. All in all, I can appreciate this stage for its challenging yet fair difficulty and its replayability, but it's not enough to sell me on the series.
It's game time!
Metroid Prime. Not enough can be said about this game. It's just amazing. Perfect environments, perfect atmosphere, perfect power-ups, perfect music, and of course, a perfect tutorial stage. The Unidentified Distress Signal. Or Above Talon 4. Or whatever you want to call it. After a stupidly over-the-top descent from her ship, Samus proceeds into the remains of a disabled space pirate frigate, coming face-to-face with parasites, injured space pirates, malfunctioning machinery, and even her arch-rival reborn himself, Meta Riley. What makes this level so damn cool is the difficulty and atmosphere. Normally, as the player eventually learns, space pirates prove to be some of the most formidable and straight-up fun foes to take on in the game. But since the ones found in this stage are wounded, some more than others, they prove to be a reasonable threat for the player at this point in the game, at least more so than those puny parasites. They also back up the atmosphere of the stage. As the player guides Samus through this hellhole, there's always a feeling of uncertainty and uneasiness that lingers over them. The stage adds fuel to these emotions as the player descends deeper into the ship, coming across more destroyed laboratories, more carcasses, until eventually, they arrive. Yes, only 15 minutes in, and the player is already tasked with killing a giant mutated parasite queen as the first boss, and then race out of the frigate before it explodes and takes you with it. Dear Zeus, this stage is not around! Thankfully, before all this goes down, the player is given a quick, simple rundown of the basics beforehand, including the locking on, the morph ball, scanning, and most importantly, save stations! The only problem, though, I have with this stage is that since you lose most of your abilities near the end— oh yeah, spoiler alert— most of the advanced techniques you're shown, such as the charge beam and grapple beam, really just seem kind of like a waste, even though you do get them back later in the game. But aside from that, Metroid Prime's tutorial stage is a fun, creepy, and hectic ride, and it's just as fantastic as the rest of the game. Too bad it's over so soon.
It's game time!
Ace Combat Assault Horizon. I f***ing love this game. This game just makes you feel like a badass when you play it. The action is so fast-paced and powerful, providing new innovation to the flight combat genre that tears it away from the snore-fest of those before. Whether you're desperately shooting down bombers above Moscow or sinking an entire aircraft carrier out at sea, this game keeps the adrenaline dial jammed past 11. Even from the get-go, the player is made fully aware that this is like no other flight combat game from before, thanks to its fantastic first stage, Nightmare. After a brief yet surprisingly foreboding monologue from main character Lieutenant Bishop, the player is sent into a hellish dogfight above Miami against an unknown enemy squadron. Right when the level starts, you're pulled into an instance of the game's major new mechanic, DFM Dogfight Mode. While the player isn't required to do much in this particular instance of DFM, seeing as how it's completely on rails, it does give the player a decent idea of what to expect. After the first target goes down, the player is given a very quick rundown of the basic flight controls before being let off the leash. And then the fun truly begins. The player flies around this perfectly sized stage, shooting down waves of enemy fighters in both the traditional way and by engaging in DFM. Normally, in tutorial stages, when the game automatically pauses just to throw up a block of text telling you what to do, it tends to be pretty irritating. But in a game like this where everything happens so fast, it actually manages not only to be tolerable, but also very helpful. Whenever the player comes within range to execute a certain action, the tutorial screens show the most ideal moments to act, whether it's to fire a missile, shake off a pursuing bogey, or showing the best opportunities to fire off your special weapon. And sweet dear lord, that music! thing that holds this stage back in my mind is the fact that it doesn't have the player take part in an instance of ASM, Airstrike Mode. But even aside from that, this stage is just one of those that's hard to hate. The action is intense, the music is amazing, and it's just damn fun. And the crazy ending cutscene definitely nets its bonus points too. But even though Nightmare is insane as hell, there is one other first stage that I feel hits all the right chords perfectly. But before we delve in, let's have a quick recap. Number 10, Disguise Tutorial Stage. Number 9, Megiddo and Above Coruscant. Number 8, World 1 Stage 1. Number 7, The Green Hill Zone. Number 6, Skelter Helter. Number 5, Jungle Hijinks. Number 4, The Obstacle Course. Number 3, The Unidentified Distress Signal. Number 2, Nightmare.
It's game time.
Foul beast! I will send you back to the depths of Hades!
Hell yes! The Aegean Sea in the original God of War is hands down the greatest first stage ever designed in a video game. Where do I even begin? How about the setting? As the name implies, you're out somewhere on the Aegean Sea while your fleet of ships is being attacked and torn to shreds by the Hydra in the middle of a f***ing typhoon. Isn't this only supposed to be the first stage of the game? When the stage starts, Kratos is immediately pulled into a brawl. Thankfully, though, the player is given a few quick tips before delving into God of War series' fantastic combat. The stage teaches you literally everything you need to know. Attacking, blocking, dodging, grabbing, QTEs, evading archers, and even working through puzzles. You even get new abilities in this stage, in particular the Wrath of Poseidon, which still stands today as one of my favorite powers in the whole series. And of course, you can't talk about this stage without bringing up that spectacular boss. After navigating through the now destroyed fleet, Kratos comes face to face with the final 3 heads of the Hydra, one of which is out of reach. So after contending with the other 2 heads and dropping giant nails on them no less, Kratos finally is able to climb the mast, only to be met with... Oh, it is so on! This first stage is so complete that it should be a f***ing crime. The setting is epic, the music is intense, the boss is awesome, complete with one of the most satisfying finishers ever, and most importantly, it gives the player ample opportunity to learn the game's mechanics and controls. And in the end, that's what makes the best tutorial stage. I'm the Disciple of the Hado, and the Aegean Sea of God of War is the best first stage ever in a video game.